But it's all people that after the first couple hours there, you just basically know because basically share everything online with these people. So you get in there and you start hanging out. My brother looks at me and he says, "So you know all these people?" I said, "Well, kind of." And at the end, the best memory wasn't until about 2 or 3 weeks later. My mom gives me a call and she's like, "You know what? I'm just so proud of you." And I'm like, "What's this all about?" She goes, "Well, your brother met you in Philly and he was just so happy for you that you know all these people and they're all your friends." And I'm like, and it was the coolest thing ever. Not because my mom told that to me, but because when my brother got there, he has no idea. I mean, he's a Miami Dolphins fan. He likes football, but he's a Yankee fan, all that stuff. But he has no idea what this part of my world is. We obviously brothers, but and he says to my mom, it's like, it's the coolest thing ever because I've never been to a bar in Philly where there was never any drama. And he goes, I'm there the entire night. He left about 1 or 2 in the morning, and it was just the cool. It was just people hanging out, buying pints for each other, hanging out, talking, singing, the whole thing. And there was no drama. He goes, I couldn't believe it. I've never seen anything like it before. And it was all like jump from conversation to conversation with person to person to person. There was never, no clicks, no bothers. It was one of those things that, he just never seen that before. And it's just an absolute representation of what it is when everyone comes to this. And that's why it's so different. It's just different from anything else that you've done. I couldn't imagine a bunch of Yankee fans in Atlanta getting together saying, let's get together and watch the Yankees play a game in the middle of the season.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just wouldn't happen. And that to me was the best memory of the whole weekend, was him realizing what we talk about as far as an outsider looking in.
Well, speaking of outsiders looking in, I've kind of got a question for all three of you guys. As American guys that have adopted Celtic through their family or for just for other particular reasons, where my friend from New Jersey, Bob, is actually going to come down with me. Bob is born and raised Jersey boy, loves the New York Giants, watches the Devils when he can, etc., etc. He's been across to Scotland now. I met Bob at college in America. We went to Lockhaven, Pennsylvania together. At the time, there was two other Scottish guys there at the same time as me. Both of them were hardcore Huns. Now, we always argued over what team he should support. Should it be Rangers? Should it be Celtic? I put my 2 cents in. They put their 2 cents in. He went across to Scotland. He met the Rangers fans. Didn't particularly click with them. Didn't he knew? He kind of said to me, "He's like, I don't know what it is. I just can't put my finger on it. I just don't understand it, and I don't really like it that much." And I'm like, "Oh, you got to meet the Celtic fans. You got to come and meet the Celtic family." So Bob's going to come down for his first Celtic experience at the Plough and Stars, which I think is the best place to take any Celtic fan if they're new to it at all. So my question is, I'm going to put this round. It's like, I'm going to introduce you to Bob when you're there. You got to come over, put your arm around him, tell him he's one of the boys. What do you say to explain to someone to be a Celtic fan? What are the reasons why he should support Celtic? And obviously, I'm born and raised, so I never really had to think about this. Chris, I'll put it to you first. I mean, what are you going to say to my boy to try and convince him to be a Tim?
Well, you don't have to do a whole lot of convincing, to be honest, and that's genuinely how I feel, because everybody that I've met, the Plow Stars last year over Twitter or Facebook, whatever, it's like you talk to them for 30 seconds and you're like, man, I really connect with this person because they are genuine. They genuinely care about you. They care about, supporting a team and a club and a perspective and a family that, you just, it's beyond what anybody, especially here in America, and even more, for a Southerner here, it's beyond what anybody can express. And, it's just one of those things that within a half an hour, you're arm in arm with people that you don't know, and you're like, man, this makes me feel good. This just makes me feel like a part of something larger than myself.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, Bob's got the merchandise already. He's got himself a Celtic shirt to wear. Seamus, I mean, we're kind of blowing our own trumpet here, but like we have such a rich history at Celtic and such like a detailed history. I mean, if you're going to tell him about our club, I mean, where'd you start? I mean, you're going to tell him about the European Cup and Lisbon Lions. You're going to tell him about Brother Walford. I mean, what element from the history of Celtic would you tell a new fan about? Where'd you start when trying to tell this story?
I mean, I was blessed to have it given to me from my grandfather. So it's a whole bunch of different things wrapped into one. You know, of course, the accolades of our past and our history, and I think that the big key is from where we came from. You know, we started as a charitable organization to help feed the, hungry, impoverished, Irish community in the East End of Glasgow, to becoming one of the, iconic sporting institutions in the world. You don't find that with many clubs. I mean, you look at the likes of a Manchester United or Liverpool. Sure, they have, all these millions of supporters across the globe, but they came and put together a barbecue in Philadelphia if they wanted to. People, the passion that Celtic fans have for the team is unlike any passion of, people say, oh, the Philadelphia Eagles fans have passion, the Flyers fans have passion, and, Manchester United fans have passion, and, the Yankees fans have passion. But until you sit and behold as an outsider looking in the passion that we all have, as Celtic supporters, I think that your friend Bob's going to be completely blown away at the fact that people were willing to drive 15 hours across the country, or leaving one country, coming to another country, to watch a match and to gather with fellow fans in a bar and not actually travel to the game.
Yep.
I think that, or to a weekend that led up to actually physically attending the match.
And you're right. I mean, you've brought up the Flyers there, the Eagles, and the Phillies, and all the Philly teams. For guys who are maybe living in Scotland just now, Philadelphia is a very, very, very passionate sports town. When I used to live there, I used to be hanging out in bars watching the Eagles or watching the Flyers or whatever. And then I'd tell people about Celtic, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I mean that's what we feel for the Flyers." And I'd be like, "No, it's not. It's not. It's absolutely not. I mean, it's cool. It's definitely legit passion that the fans in Philadelphia have for the Flyers and the Eagles, and especially the Phillies. Yeah, it's just not the same." Dr. J, what I mean, bringing you into this, I mean, you got into the sport recently. You're speaking to my friend. I mean, what are your key points? I mean, Bob used to work for New York Red Bulls, to give you a start, so he knows about soccer. He doesn't have a team in Europe. He's got the English Premiership blasting all the time on different channels like Fox, etc. Why should he support Celtic and not support Manchester United? Why should he support Celtic and not Chelsea or Spurs or AC Milan, or I mean, he's got Italian family, etc. Blah blah blah. I mean, what was it for you?
Yeah, of the four of us, I'm the only one who shouldn't be on the phone call. You know what I mean? If it was truly one of those types of situations that was only heritage type thing, it really wouldn't necessarily apply to me, maybe through a couple reaches. But it's one of those things that if you say to another American, like I have a good friend of mine who I was working this weekend in Orlando, and he texted me at 7:30, "Hey, Celtics on, are you up?" And I'm like, I know he's not usually up at 7:30 on a Saturday. And he's up 7:30, texts me, "I'm watching the game." I'm like, awesome, that's great. Because he's like, now since I wear the shirt and I'm always there, he's like, oh, this is so cool. He's starting to really, really get into it. And his kids play, and when I go over to the house with him, I'll watch games with him, everything else. And I think the stories of, to me, there's three things. One, the stories of we're everywhere. So no matter where you go, someone knows, but it's not glory hunter style. It's not because, oh, why do you know? Because if you like the team, you like the team because of the history that Seamus talks about and how it relates to the way you see things. And then on top of that, it isn't just that. It's also that it's the fact that it's all inclusive. There is no in group. It isn't because it's on TV. If you like this team, you have to really, really, really want to go out and find it if you're not within the heritage side of things. So once you find it and you start watching it, it's not that you're a glory hunter or anything like that. It's one of those situations where you actually start to become what do you say, eaten alive by it. It's one of those things that you get infected by it, and it grows on you like a mushroom, we'll say, and it's crazy. And you start to really, really get into it, and you start to realize that, hey, wait a second, this team is and for me, the third thing is it's accessible. I know it's kind of hard to say that, but even for me, I've met the manager and players, and I've met people at the club and everything else, and I've only been a fan for probably 4 or 5 years. Meanwhile, on the backside, I've been a Yankee fan since I was 5, and I've never even been to Monument Park when the old Yankee Stadium was open. And when you get that, when you see that connection, when you see the manager, and this is one of the things we'll talk about later, when you see Ronnie going over to the stands and celebrating with the fans, and you see those types of things, man, I'll tell you what, that to me, you put those three things together, and all of a sudden, the usual American sports fan will see that definitely in a different light. And I think if you say that to him, and we bring him in, we start talking with him and start explaining that to him, it'll be like, I get it. And then once you go out of your way to find the games, you start to see the passion with which people talk about it. It's totally different thing. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah. I think you all gave absolutely amazing answers in your own way. But I mean, I usually break it down into two things, where if a football fan of any team except for Celtic defines himself, it's like, why do you support Spurs, Chelsea, blah, blah, blah. First thing they do is tell you about the great players that they have. And the second thing they do is they contrast their team to their rivals. But, oh, we're Spurs and Arsenal are this. It's 30 minutes into this call. Not one of you mentioned, oh, we have this player, that player, bragging about players. And secondly, none of you mentioned the scum that we're playing on Sunday. So there's such a rich tapestry about this club that we can define ourselves without having to compare ourselves to other people, which is an absolute rarity in modern sports, to be quite honest with you. I mean, Chris, you're making it up from Athens, Georgia. Is there anything, apart from the game itself, is there anything that you're looking forward to this weekend especially? Or
I mean, just the whole thing. I mean, I raved about everything last year. My wife's coming this year. You know, she wants to see everything and meet everybody, and I'm so looking forward to having the session on Friday and the session on Saturday and the session on Sunday. I mean, it's going to be, and more to the point, kind of like what we were just talking about with you know, why you should support Celtic. Well, you know, if you're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, and you know, for me, I don't have a local CSC. I am my own CSC, because the places that are here in Athens that have, you know, soccer shown or whatever, they don't have anybody. And I've tried to bring people in and this, that, and the other. So most of the time, if I'm watching a match on a Saturday morning at 7:30, it's just me and my dogs. I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's me, my wife, and my dogs.
I wasn't sure if that was like American slang for like, yo, dog, what's up?
No,
no, your actual dogs.
Yeah,
your canines.
My actual Dotson. so you know, like it's one of those things that, like, if I can get a, you know, because I don't have enough wherewithal to you know, get over to Scotland twice a year, just because I've got a lot of other stuff going on. So for me, coming up to Philadelphia and being around my people, you know, Celtic family people, that's such a big part, because it you know, rejuvenates your passion each time that you can go out and be surrounded by Tims, and you know, everybody knows everybody else's mentality, just like how important this is to you. It really just makes your soul just filled up full of pride, and it's so wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that with my wife. Now that she, Dr. J and I, the first 30 minutes that we were in Philadelphia, I was like, all right, so I'm here, I got to see Liberty Bell, I got to see Independence Hall, and I got to eat a cheesesteak. And within the first 30 minutes, I knocked all those out, and I was like, all right, good, let's go to the bar.
That's a true story. There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, so, sorry, Seamus, Pat, just want to remember, Pat's or Geno's?
You know what? I tweeted out the other day, because someone had asked about that, and they wanted to know what I thought was the best cheesesteak. And you know what? The jury's out. Some people say Jim, some people say Pat, some people say Geno's, some people say Steve's Princess Steaks, there's Ishkabibbles, there's like 7 to 8 places to get a cheesesteak.
Who's the guy by the airport who does the broccoli Rob one?
Well, you got Tony Luke's.
Tony Luke's, there you go. That's the one, yeah.
And the best broccoli Rob pork sandwich is at Nick's at the Reading Terminal Market.
Got it.
Yeah.
It's the best in the city.
I like Jim's on South Street, especially because I used to drink on South Street all the time. I used to hang out at a bar called Mako's down there, an old rock bar, jump across to Jim's. But Pat and Geno's, for people that don't live in Philly, are rival firms where they're across the road from each other. And if you line up at one and the line's too long, you decide to change line and go to the other cheesesteak stand, they might tell you to fuck off. They actually may tell you. And I remember I was about to do this. I was in the line for Geno's,